Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to CryptosRUs. I am George. Today, I have an urgent message for all Bitcoin holders. I know today a lot of people are feeling uneasy as Bitcoin came down from our usual 34.5 and now it's around $31,000. But that is what today's stream is all about. I have an urgent message for all of you Bitcoin holders and crypto holders. And let me just sum it up. Don't panic sell. That's the one thing that you don't want to do. You don't want to panic sell, because in this video, I'm going to show you how the whales are manipulating what's going around and why they're causing such panic at this point. I'm going to prove it to you guys. I'm going to show you guys exactly what they're doing, right? Taking advantage of the situation. And the number one thing that you don't want to do is panic sell. If you do that, you're transferring your wealth, you're transferring your Bitcoin to these whales, and you definitely don't want to do that. All right, guys, as always, I have these streams 11 a.m. Central Standard Time, right? So make sure you hit that subscribe button if you are new and hit that notification bell. And let's get started. And those of you guys that's already in the chat, it's a lively chat today. Welcome. And let me show my screen here. Let me change my screen. All right, so right now Bitcoin is at 31,300 and something, right? And this morning it briefly went to about 30,800. That's today's low. But you could see yesterday we were hovering around 34.5, right? And now today it did come down. But why? Why did this happen? Well, the whales are taking advantage of the situation because there are some uncertainty right now going forward. The biggest one, well, you can see on CNBC, this doesn't help, obviously, on their front page. But the biggest one is from the new Treasury Secretary, Janet Yellen, when she was being asked by the Senate, like a lot of things. She had to say some big things. They were basically asking her a whole bunch of questions. And I covered this in my video yesterday. So she said some things that some people took the wrong way in terms of she wants to curb money laundering with cryptocurrencies. She wants to curb illicit activities or illicit financing. That's basically what she said. But as Treasury Secretary, you have to say those things, right? You're in charge at FinCEN. You're in charge of what's going around, all money things wise, right? You have to be in charge. So when asked, hey, what are you planning on doing? Of course, you go say those things, right? You're not going to say, you know what? I'm going to ignore crypto. I'm just going to let it do its thing. We don't need to worry about it. Of course, we want her to say that, but of course, no Treasury Secretary could say that. But I think people took this out of context. People were uncertain, thinking that she may be very anti-crypto, or at least the media wanted you to think that way, because all these articles are about how, new regulations and all this stuff is coming down. And this is exactly the type of narrative that the whales want. Because the whales are having a hard time to do anything really without some kind of narrative that is either causing people to have extreme fear or uncertainty or doubt. And this is one of those situations because, of course, we have a new president, a new administration, a new Treasury Secretary, and we just don't know what's going to happen, right? So there's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of doubt, and that is actually exactly what the whales want. They basically want to blow this up as much as possible so that they can apply their whalish games, like I call it, bear raids, and basically drive things lower. And why would they want to do this? Well, it's obvious. Bitcoin is very high. They want to grab as much cheap Bitcoins as they can while they can from people like you, from people that may be new to the space, and you're afraid, you're panicking, and you panic sell. That's why you never want to panic sell. You always want to sell with profit in mind, right? So you never want to panic sell. And I'm going to show you on some of the charts what I'm talking about. And I'm going to show you actually what's also happening behind the scenes. Like what the big money, what the smart money is doing while everyone is panicking over a few hundred points or a few thousand point drop, right? And there's few other pieces of news that kind of fuddish too, right? Bearish. Well, this was out of the blue. People were wondering, hey, what the hell happened to Craig Wright? Well, all of a sudden, Craig Wright and his lawyers decided to go after Bitcoin.org, BitcoinCore.org, and several other sites, saying that he owns the copyright to the white paper and the name, and he owns all these things, right? And this caused a little bit of FUD too. You know, whether or not the whales are working with CSW, I don't know. But I guess what made it worse, according to Bitcoin.org, is some of the core developers, they got scared and they actually they scrambled and removed the Bitcoin white paper from the website, which has now been restored. But because of that, according to them, whoever this admin is, Cobra, that's giving their lawyers ammunition, like almost like proving that they're right, that Craig Wright is right. And this also added to some FUD today, and this is not a good look. Of course, you know what? I think at this point we know Craig Wright is not Satoshi. He can't prove it in court. He basically lost a fortune in fees, and now he's doing a last desperate attempt to try to scare the community, right? We know he doesn't have the private key to Satoshi's wallet. He doesn't have anything. He can't prove anything that he's Craig Wright. I mean... He can prove he's Craig Wright. He can't prove that he's Satoshi. And even if he does, do you really think anyone cares at this point? And do you really think the true Satoshi would actually sue? Websites like this? A website that's it's a non-profit website helping people to learn about Bitcoin. You think the real Satoshi would really do that? I mean, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense, right? So this definitely didn't help today, along with everything else that's going on. And this came out, right? Guggenheim, their CIO, Scott Minerd. Here's the thing, and this is what the article got wrong about this. So Scott Minerd recently came out very bullish on Bitcoin, said Bitcoin is worth $400,000 out of the blue. Okay. Now the one thing people miss from that interview, because I actually showcased that interview for you guys. If you don't remember, go back, and I remember this specifically, and this is where I got it wrong. So according to this, Scott Minerd said, you know what, Bitcoin has topped out, and it could retrace to $20,000. Okay. Now according to this article, according to this author, Guggenheim already purchased Bitcoin around $10,000, right? So it sounds like, okay, even if it trades at $20,000, they're still in the green, right? That's where this article got it wrong. He specifically stated that Guggenheim has been trying to get approval to buy Bitcoin within their fund since $10,000. And when he did that interview, Bitcoin was already at $30,000. So he's still waiting for the SEC to give them approval to buy Bitcoins within their fund. So why do you think he is saying this? Why do you think he wants to basically curtail or curb Bitcoin's price right now? Because his firm has missed out on the gains. Guggenheim has not bought any Bitcoins yet. Go back to the interview where he said Bitcoin was worth $400,000. And in that interview, he specifically stated, we've been looking at Bitcoin, trying to buy Bitcoin at $10,000, and we haven't been able to because we're trying to get approval from the SEC. So of course, he would say stuff like this because he wants Bitcoin to fall back down so that they can buy more, right? This is the type of smoke and mirror games that these big players do. They're the best at it. That's why they're the big money. That's why they're also the smart money, because while they get everyone else to panic, they're buying. They're buying and buying and buying. And I'm going to show you who is buying. A lot of buying going on. So, for example, SkyBridge, they revealed that their Bitcoin fund grew to $370 million out of nowhere. Who knows what the original number was, right? I think it was like $100 million or something like that. But over the course of the last few months, it has tripled or quadrupled to almost $400 million. So who's buying? Yeah, the big money, the rich money, right? The smart money. They're buying while everyone else is panicking over prices. They're buying and buying and buying and buying. Here's another one. A multi-billion-dollar fund manager, Ruffer, I don't know if it's Ruffer, just declared that 3% of their entire portfolio, worth approximately $29 billion, is now in Bitcoin. Out of the blue. So 3% may not sound like a lot, but 3% out of 29 billion is close to $1 billion, almost $900 million. Again, another huge fund manager, right, that has put a ton of money into Bitcoin behind the scenes. And people don't notice this. People don't notice it until these firms actually release the numbers. Sometimes by force, they have to do it because they have to produce documents for their investors to prove that they're doing something. So again, kind of shows you, right? Big money, smart money, they're buying as much as possible. Every single fund, pension fund, retirement fund, endowment, wealth advisors, they're all getting in slowly, and they're just accumulating as much as they can. Every single one. Here's another one. BlackRock, right? The biggest asset manager in the world. Recently, their CEO and CIO both have said very positive things about Bitcoin. And of course, now BlackRock gives two funds the go-ahead to go invest in Bitcoin futures. Not directly into Bitcoin, but you know what? They don't want to miss out on what's going on with Bitcoin. So now they are going to be buying a ton of Bitcoin futures. And of course, if this continues on, right, they're going to get more exposure to Bitcoin by possibly getting into Bitcoin related companies, right, buying their stock, right, like MicroStrategy, for example, right? And if Bitcoin ETF somehow gets improved this year, again, they're going to probably be buying that up as well. And maybe, who knows? Who knows? They'll offer their own ETF. But again, kind of shows you, right? What's going on behind the scenes is these guys are just buying and buying and buying and buying and buying, while retail investors are panicking over nothing, right? So you gotta pay attention to what's behind the scenes, what's going on behind the scenes. This is why you don't want to be panic selling, no matter what the headlines are telling you, because the headlines are meant to cause emotion, right? Either to scare you or to make you really happy. There's no in between, right? That's how you pull in viewers. So from one day to the next, you're going to see very, very bad headlines and very, very good headlines. So ignore the bad headlines and pay attention to what's going on. Now, two other articles I want to show you, and then I'm going to show you directly on the chart exactly the type of whalish games that whales have been doing since last night to this morning that caused the dip, and why you don't want to fall for it. So here's an interesting one, and this relates to what I was just talking about. Someone on Reddit basically said, yeah, we heard the usual stuff, right? But he is working in a private banking sector. He has a lot of network professionals on LinkedIn, right? And so what? But he's noticing a lot of them, and a lot of his other private bankers and financial office managers and wealth advisors, right? They're all getting educated, and they're attending crypto seminars and Bitcoin seminars. And there's ones that's by the Billionaire Chronicle, which I've never heard of, but it's a pretty exclusive club. And he's noticing that all these guys are getting educated on crypto and Bitcoin. And the reason being is because their clients are asking them about it, right? And this concurs with Kathy Wood of ARK Invest, who recently said that too. She's like, I'm getting a lot of calls from people that want to know more about Bitcoin and getting exposure to Bitcoin, right? So again, the smart money, big money, they're all getting educated. They all want a piece of the pie. This is why you don't want to panic sell. You don't want to panic sell. And here's another one. Speaking of Janet Yellen, well, a previous Treasury Secretary Larry Summers said Bitcoin is here to stay. Here to stay. In fact, he argues that the price fluctuations are a fact that Bitcoin is resilient. Not that it's too volatile, not that, you can't invest in Bitcoin because it's too volatile. No, it shows you its resilience. How every time it comes down, it comes right back up. And that's how good Bitcoin is. I think people are going to move towards it. And as people move towards it, given the finiteness of its supply, that's going to be a factor working to raise prices. This is ultimately what it comes down to. If you don't believe in anything else about Bitcoin, nothing else about Bitcoin, the one thing that it has that no other commodity, currency, precious metal, investment out there has, and that is a finite supply. It's set in code. There's no way to break it. Everything else is variable. Everything else, gold, silver, copper, uranium, oil, stocks, even cards. Everything has basically an unlimited supply because there's always more. I take that back about cards and art because even though you can produce more, the original ones are still very limited. But Bitcoin is set. There is only going to be 21 million. That is it. It doesn't matter how many forks of Bitcoin you have. They're not Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin Cash is not Bitcoin. Bitcoin SV is not Bitcoin. Doesn't matter if they have Bitcoin in the name. So Bitcoin is set in a supply. It's non-sovereign. No one controls it. It's deflationary, right? It's the anti-fiat in every way possible. So if nothing else, if you don't believe in anything else, believe that supply is set. There's a finite supply and demand is only going to rise. And when demand rises, supply stays the same or drops, guess what happens? The price goes up, right? And that is exactly what has been happening over the last 11 years of Bitcoin, right? All right. So those are the articles I wanted to show you. Now let me show you some whalish games. And it's pretty obvious. It's when you're zoomed out like this, you may not notice it right away. You just notice big red candlesticks, all right? So the double spend thing is debunked. It's FUD, so don't worry about it. So here's the thing. When you look at this, you're like, okay, why, a lot of selling, right? But if you zoom in and you actually zoom in and take a look at the volume specifically, you can see the whalish games. So yesterday, Bitcoin was hovering around 34.5, right? This is a natural support for Bitcoin, and it's just holding here. There's a few times, like over here, where Bitcoin fell through, right? You could see the volume increased out of nowhere. You can see the volume is pretty steady. And then out of nowhere, you have one big, gigantic red candlestick. Guess what? A whale pressed sell, and tried to get Bitcoin to start going down. But in this case, it failed. The Bitcoin bulls just took it over and it came right back up. And you could see the volume. Look at the volume. Look at how consistent it is. Up and down, yes. Very low volume. So that's in a normal situation. That's how Bitcoin normally is if you look at the volume and you zoom in. But this morning, I believe it's this morning or maybe early last night or late last night, right? Bitcoin was hovering again and then boom, what happened? The whales decided, okay, let's give it a try. There's some uncertainty. Let's try to drop the price. So you could see that the sell volume all of a sudden increased every time, just keep dropping Bitcoin, right? So right when over here, when Bitcoin is about to flip, the whale's like, no, two big candlesticks, red candlesticks for volume, you could see Bitcoin dropped, right? Bitcoin wanted to recover. They're like, no, let's sell some more, right? And they kept doing this until they dropped Bitcoin to where it is. Same thing over here. Volume started dying down, guess what? Boom. Right? Let's keep dropping. Let's get people to start panicking. So when it's at 32 something, right? Let's add the panic. Over here, same thing. It was leveling out. And then boom, look at this. All this came out of nowhere, right? Again, the whale's like, no, we're going to keep dropping it. And you can see the same pattern over and over and over again where the volume is consistent. All of a sudden, boom, it goes up. Just like over here, when Bitcoin dropped to 31,000, you could see the red candlesticks just blew up, right? Because they want to keep things low. They're like, let's take advantage, right? And right now, it seems like volume has leveled out. So right now, it's at that point where it seems like the whales have stopped trying to do massive dumps. And this is the time for Bitcoin bulls to take over. Right now, it's kind of just hovering, right? But this is the time for Bitcoin bulls to take over. And this also relates to something that I was talking about yesterday from a technical factor. I was talking about yesterday, why did Bitcoin drop? Well, it was due to the 4 hour, and for a 4 hour, it needs to bottom out and clear out before things, get better, right? Yesterday when I said that, I thought that 34.5 could be that mark because that was a pretty big jump already from 40 to 35. But now, you know what? Now we're a little bit lower. If you look at the previous time that Bitcoin fell from 42 down to $30,000, you could see it's the same kind of games, but the 4 hours did drop down to about 30. No, 29. You can see RSI right here, 29, right? And look at where the RSI is right now, 29. So this is also basically exactly the same point before, right? Just like before when Bitcoin fell to $30,000, this is at that point. So I was just showing you on a smaller time frame. It seems like the whales stopped trying to push Bitcoin down. And the 4 hour has also bottomed out. So this could be the start where Bitcoin starts recovering back up again and does this, right? And covers right back up. It's a little early, but we'll see. We'll see. But ultimately, what I'm thinking right now is, you know what? You don't want to panic sell because the whales are doing what they can to cause more FUD and confusion and all that stuff to drive you to sell your Bitcoins because they want to pick up cheap Bitcoins. They know Bitcoin's going to go much higher. They want as much as they can. Despite the fact they do have a lot, it pales to what the institutions will have in the near future. So they want to accumulate as much as they can. They're going to take advantage of uncertainty like this. They're going to expand it. They're going to make it look like it's much worse, right? But ultimately, pay attention to what's going on behind the scenes, right? All the funds, every fund out there, right, keeps adding more and more Bitcoins to their portfolios. This is not by accident. The more Bitcoin drops, the more they add. This is how it is. You buy low and you sell high, right? You don't want to buy high and sell low. That's how it works, right? So pay attention to what these guys are doing. They keep adding more and more and more. More and more and more, right? So that's what you need to do. You need to follow the smart money. You need to follow the big money and don't do the reverse and don't fall for the whalish games. All right, so I'll turn to back to you guys. I said a lot. Let's do some Q&A. I think I might have missed some super chats. No, I did not. The smart money bought in 2019. You could argue the smart money bought in at 2013 too. You could always argue that smart money bought in earlier. No, when I'm talking about smart money, I'm talking about the big institutions right now. Early on, you could argue smart money, guys like Roger Ver, Max Kaiser, Tim Draper. Yeah, they're smart money, but they're not institutions. They're just individuals that got in very early, right? VeChain was holding very strong last night. Polkadot is still holding very strong, right? A lot of, I'll give you this. The alts right now are holding very, very, very strong. And this is another sign that panic isn't all over the place, okay? Traditionally in the past, and this is a very good sign for altcoins, so pay attention. Traditionally in the past, if Bitcoin has a big down day like this, like Bitcoin is down 8%, okay? All the other altcoins would be double, triple, or quadruple. I know you guys know what I'm talking about. Before, when Bitcoin would fall down 8%, Ethereum, Polkadot, XRP, Cardano, Litecoin down the list would be down 15, 20, 25%. The fact that some of them are holding better than Bitcoin, they fell, but they didn't fall nearly as much as Bitcoin, that's truly amazing. That actually is truly amazing. It shows how many people really support some of these altcoins. And this goes beyond just whalish games. I've always talked about whalish games, altcoins specifically with pump and dumps, right? You see a lot of them happen. And with pump and dumps, when Bitcoin falls, you know what? The whale's like, forget it. I'm cutting out. And then you see the altcoins fall in a big way. But there's a lot going for a lot of these altcoin projects. You could see it right now within the last 7 days. Bitcoin could be down 27%, right, from its high of 42, of course. But you look at something like Polkadot, it's still up 30% despite what has happened today. And over 24 hours, it's still up 5%, which is amazing. Same to Cardano, it's not up that much, but still up 3% for the week, while everything else has gone down. Same thing in the Chainlink, up 16% within the week, right? Despite the fact the market has been coming down. So it does show you that a lot of altcoins truly has built up momentum, has truly gone beyond just pump and dumps and whalish games. And that's very, very good for altcoins in general. And you could see that Bitcoin dominance, in fact, did not go up at all. With today's drop, Bitcoin dominance is still low at 64.4%. Again, proving that altcoins can stand on their own. So this actually is very positive indeed for altcoins too. Rich, I can't explain it because it's more technical in nature. But no, I don't think that's what dropped the price. Epstein, don't worry about where bottom is. No one knows where bottom is. But I just got done saying that I think the whalish games, the whalish down pressure, looks like it has stopped. Now, of course, it can continue, but it looks like it has stopped. So that means the bears pretty much is just letting go for now, and the bulls could take over. And it's a perfect scenario for it to take over, for them to take over, because the 4 hours is bottomed out. So if you look at the last time, same thing, right? So that's what it's looking like right now. Yeah, those of you guys that tuned in late, I know a lot of people tuned in late, right? Right now, the urgent message is don't panic sell. Don't fall for these games, right? After what Janet Yellen said yesterday, a lot of people feels uncomfortable with what she said, but you have to think about it. As a new Treasury Secretary, you have to say those things. If you're appointed a Treasury Secretary and you're basically the police of all things money, you have to say things like, yes, I have to try to stop money laundering and illicit activities and illicit financing. I have to find ways to regulate those space. Of course, you have to say those things. You can't just ignore it, right? So I think a lot of people took this out of context and they didn't know what to do with this information. And the whales looked at this opportunity. They're like, hey, there's a narrative. Let's push this. Let's drive things lower and make people think that this is really the reason, right? And this wasn't the only reason. There was a lot of things that was brought up. I mentioned a lot of these things, like Craig Wright trying to sue Bitcoin.org and stuff right away. Guggenheim says that Bitcoin may have topped out, right? There was a double spend thing that BitMEX found or whatever that was debunked. I mean, there's a lot of things that is going on, right? So this is the perfect time for the whales to do their whalish thing. So I just got done saying, you can see in the volume, spikes in volume. They purposely keep dropping Bitcoin at right times, right? To make people more fearful and more panicked sell. But you don't want to fall for that. You don't want to fall for that. If anything, you should panic buy. These are buying opportunities, right? I keep talking about why do Bitcoin whales, why do some of these whales want to see the price drop? And I get this asked all the time by people. Like, why do whales want the price drop? They already have so many Bitcoins. Can't they just ride it out, make more money, and just drive everything to the moon? No, that's not how it works. Because no matter how rich they are, they want to make more money. Just like billionaires that continue to work, you could argue that they want something to do. But a lot of them still care. A lot of them still care about being the world's richest man. So they're doing what they can while they still can because it's legal. But, like bear raids and stuff like this, manipulation on the stock market is illegal. You could be sentenced for jail, right? But in the crypto world, it's still mostly unregulated. So things like that can still happen. There's collusion and all this stuff. And they drive prices down to cause you to sell your Bitcoin so they could buy it back. They could buy back cheaper, right? And they accumulated more. So that's how it is. What is all this? What is all this INNI crap? Miguel asks, will I be taxed if I sell my Bitcoin to stablecoins? Yes, every transaction is taxable. It doesn't matter if you sell to stablecoins or you make a trade. You buy Ethereum with Bitcoin. That's considered a taxable event. Every single trade is. So unfortunately, the tax code is a little bit wonky right now, but I'm sure that will change. I'm sure. Yes, I did see that. A new way to spend your XRP is with Pornhub. I saw that article. When will be altcoin season? Right now, I just got making done. I made the point that a lot of altcoins are actually showing very good strength, which is why Bitcoin dominance is still low, and a lot of these are outperforming Bitcoin right now. This is a short term, I know. Doesn't mean that they're going to start outperforming Bitcoin for like the next 10 years. No, but it does show you that there is a lot of strength with altcoins right now, right? And this is what a lot of people is waiting for. So it is a little bit different right now. It is a little bit different. But of course, the whole market follows Bitcoin, right? That's not going to change anytime soon, right? Bitcoin falls, majority of the market is going to fall, right? So the name of the game, of course, is still Bitcoin. And Bitcoin has a lot more room to grow. So I'm buying. I'm buying. Actually, in fact, I did buy already. I bought many times already. So whenever there's stuff like this happening, I see it as a buying opportunity. It's just like the whales. They may be playing their games, but they're buying. So I'm buying. I'm following the big money. I'm following the smart money. I'm buying when I can. Doge. All right, guys. That's it. I'm going to let you guys go. Keep it. I was going to say I'll keep it short, but this stream is not short at all. But hopefully, this urgent message was received by you guys, right? Bitcoin holders, crypto holders, doesn't matter. The urgent message is don't panic sell. Number one thing you don't want to do is panic sell, okay? Look at what has happened over the last 24 hours. Did anything really spark this? Well, yes, there's some uncertainty, some FUD, and guess what? The whales decide to take advantage of it and drive things lower and make you question things even more, right? But if you take a look at what all the big money, what they're doing, what their clients are doing, they're adding tons, hundreds of billions of dollars, hundreds of millions, I should say, but it's really billions of Bitcoin behind the scenes. They're doing this, right? And they're ignoring the price fluctuations. They're buying and holding, and they plan on doing that for a very long time. So you got to pay attention to what's behind the scenes, not so much what the whales want you to think, what mainstream media want you to think. You want to ignore that, right? You want to ignore that. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. As always, smash up the like, subscribe to the channel if you are new, right? Subscribe to, follow me on Twitter and Facebook so you get double notified because sometimes notifications doesn't work. Also, check out my Patreon page and my Teachable page. All right, guys, until next time, take care. Bye-bye.